Well, there are parts of ourselves that I believe that we do not even recognize and let alone unveil them. So how do we extract the bright side from our gray area and then turn our weaknesses into strengths? I believe that it's important to understand, to embrace, and also to reveal who we are. I am transparent to my true form from the inside out because I found that being transparent allowed me to advocate for myself and also to gain the trust from other people. Being transparent also prevents me from hurting even myself and others. To do so, the very first step I found is that we should have learned the way how to harness our inner voice. Ethan Kroll defines it the result of a certain brain mechanism that causes you to hear yourself talk within your head without actually speaking or forming sounds. The inner voice is thought to be partially controlled by a type of brain signal. It helps us to distinguish between different types of experiences, such as those that are created internally or even externally. It can be either positive or negative to one development. So how do we invite our true inner self? I'm not extraordinary, and I used to hide my true self, and I wonder why my life is full of discriminations and obstacles. I realized my gender from the very young age, and yes, I'm a member of the LGBTQI+ community. Have you ever lived a life that is meant to be somebody else? Did somebody tell you that you're supposed to be like this or like that? Or have you ever experienced gender discrimination and isolation because of who you are? And you're terrified of being alone or having no one to talk to. Every single time you want to be transparent with your loved one, you are frightened of losing them. I did. Some of my friends gradually isolated myself, and there were an invisible wall built up between us from the day they discovered who I am. Vietnam has a famous song harmonizing that we have around only 60 years to enjoy our life, and I was living behind the shadows of somebody else for 30 years, which means I wasted half of it hiding my true self. Still, have you ever talked about a dad while struggling with the midlife crisis? I did. I'm a cancer survivor, and I've been through a serious surgery. In late 2022, the diagnostics prescribed me a malignant tumor at the age of 29, and I had to enter the operating table to get it removed. The danger is that there is no guarantee that it might or might not happen in the future, and I have no idea how long I can enjoy my life or what should I do next at that time. So my mom once said that she was sorry for not making me perfect. Perfect in the terms of having a normal gender identity, and perfect in the terms of having a healthy body. It wasn't your fault. And what made you think that I'm not perfect? I responded, I'm just perfect the way I am. So how did I get over all of that and being happy with my true self at this moment? Before thinking about how to unveil our true self, I think that we should have recognized who we are. What don't you know about the gray area, about yourself in the gray areas? How big is your potential? And when you put yourself to the limitations, stepping back and take a deep breath to make sense all of your experiences. I believe it's a useful way to, change the harmony of your inner voice. It changes that if you don't even know what you're making wrong, you can never know that what you're doing right. When I find myself on the edge of the majority, my mind reminds me that it is time for me to pause and reflect. There was a time that I was frustrated by peer pressure, seeing my friends achieve and to enjoy their life to the fullest while I was struggling with failure. That was when I was vulnerable to my inner voice saying that I wasn't good enough, I didn't try my best, I have a shortest time to reach that level. In the simplest sense, chatter inflamed all of my emotions and allowing the negative side of my inner voice to play. So how did I harness the negative effects of it? I used to spend around 30 minutes before bedtime embracing my imaginations. I recall all of my experiences that's caused my stress, anxiety, or depression during that day. And I usually visualize my conversations and play as my second invisible versions, meaning that I duplicated myself in that conversations. I carefully observed and also evaluate how I behaved, or what my facial expressions, or what would I do differently next time. But this way, I cool myself down and I figure out all the alternative ways of, seeing and thinking about the issue. Now that I know that what I did wrong, it's time to try and fail differently. Dedicated in the pharmaceutical industry for the past over 6 years, I have learned and practiced a powerful healing tool to harness my inner voice. When my friend convinced the mind that I was good enough, that I tried my best at that moment, and that I can become a better version of myself, and thus stimulate healing. And of course, it won't shrink my malignant and tumor, but instead, it makes me feel better with endorphin and dopamine, which are the two important hormones that make us happy. Because about that, practicing self-help methods is a good way to reap the advantage of it. And I engage and immerse myself in the ritual of healthy living, including eating healthy food, exercising, having quality social time, and even meditating. And I believe that excellence is about stepping out of our comfort zones. That's why I have tried and challenged myself in various roles and positions in organizations, including both, private, government sectors, NGO, as well as I volunteer for local and international organizations. And I've been even, study from many fields, including economics, education, technology, transparency, and any field that it can help me to better understand who I am, what's in my capability and my limitation. I believe it's better late than never. Progress is built in fact upon the foundations of necessary pillars. That is the essentials of the paradox of the expert performance. After knowing who we are, I think that it is crucial to, we should have learned how to accept our true form from the inside out. At this moment, at this point, self-transparency convey the message of stop hiding who you are and resuming a YOLO lifestyle. This is a realization stage for me because, transforming from the tragedy to self-awareness about what is my true form, my true inner self, and also the meaning of my life by reframing mixed quote. If we don't get a miracle in life, we can always be a miracle of our life. Recalling my inner voice, my inner story as an example, accepting my true genders is to understand, to accept, and to unveil my sorrow and spirit from the inside. I'm confident to bring out the best of myself by, being respected and treated as equal as others, and accepting the fact that I might have the cancer cell at any time, and I have to play with a big scar on my body, meaning that I accepted my body and the physical form from the inside, from the outside. And at this stage, we are practicing self-transparency. The concept for me is a self-reflecting practice, encouraging us to look inside our deepest fear and imperfection. In other words, accept who we are. There is no growth without knowing ourselves, and we are imperfect. And self-transparency helped me become a perfect imperfection. To begin, let's extract the bright side from our gray area by becoming a picky Tinder sweeper. In other words, this is about to focus on what makes us happy physically and mentally. After carefully evaluating all of your experience from another perspective and zoom them in close enough to see the bright side, I swipe right to all the positive emotion and experiences, and I swipe left to all the negative ones. For instance, I bow back from stress and anxiety when people doubted about my ability when I was first promoted as one of the youngest team leader in one of the top pharmaceutical company, where I defined my limitation and also jealous all of the safety. I started to welcome all the people attacked as they're giving constructive feedback rather than hatred. And I don't even care that whether they're as good as I believe they are. The trick is that to practice seeing and evaluating things from different angles and then selecting the brightest one. And then I redefine myself. In a rainy evening, I remember when I was preparing this talk, I accidentally heard that somebody yell out to her son that a boy should never play with a teddy bear. And she asked him to stop adopting a bad habit from his friends. So the question is, it is the social norm that molded people's mind for generations, Do we adopt it our patient mindset without notice? There is a fascinating saying that when two partners always agree, one of them is not necessary. So how do we grow and how do we, make any chances without trying new things? I learned a lot of things and I redefine myself that changing this school of thought. I believe that I'm not a victim of gender discrimination, but I'm a ambassador and the voice of the community. And I'm also an advocate for human rights. The foremost lesson that I've learned is about family support. My fear would never be overcome without, unless it is a dependent. However, I have only one wife, and there is nothing to, nothing to lose. And also performing this practice, I am not a soon-to-die cancer patient. I am a tragedy survivor and also a warrior in a battle against ailment. One of the surprising things that I learned is that only a small part of that is, about cancer experiences. But most of it is about relationships and finding my identity and also discovering the strength and the flexibility that I never ever knew that I had. And I've learned that one of the simplest way and the best way for me to get out of all of that is that I just simply say that I'm a member of the community and I usually have cancer. And finally, having, living behind the mask of other people for many years, I acknowledge that being something or somebody is nothing but just, inactiveness or sedentary existence. Inactivity for me, it also means that from the inside. 2 years ago, I was lost. I lost myself during the peer pressure, and I didn't know what to do with the tumor. There was a time that I became inactive. There is no social engagement, office zombie, and I just simply exist, and I died. Fortunately, self-transparency helped me to, turn everything upside down and to take the full advantage of all of my used to be weaknesses to, by selectively utilizing and allocate them into suitable opportunities and immersing myself into a lot of challenges, thereby expanding the scope of my influence, unveiling, and maximizing my potential. I believe that my weaknesses are also my strength. I don't disregard them. In fact, I started to talk more about my weaknesses more often than my strength. I enjoy becoming a generalist rather than a specialist while discovering who I am. And I practice the drive and fail mindset on a daily basis. A person I believe would never know what he's capable of unless he give it a try. Trying new things is the key to discovering your talent code. I usually compare myself to the person that I was yesterday, not any other person, because I believe that everybody processes at a different rate. So don't let anybody else make you feel behind because you probably have no idea where exactly you are going. So feeling behind doesn't help. But keep in mind that you are not alone. We are human and humans are imperfect. Every single individual has a unique talent and ability. So do you. And we don't have to, necessarily experience on the strategy in life to have all the strength that you need. You can learn this from other people's experiences. So what about you? How are you going to find the meaning of your crappy experience? It's never been too late to change what it means because meaning is dynamic. Claim your experience. Don't let it claim you. Thank you.